Welcome, everybody. I'm Bonnie from Academic Technology. Today, I'm hoping to share some of the newer Gmail and Google Calendar features that are out there. As most of you know, I talk about technology a lot, and I promise it's not because I think technology is the most important thing in our lives. I think what we have to offer and the work that we do is more important, but I like that sometimes we can find technologies that help us free up some time or free up some energy or free up some cognitive load so that we can do the things that we like to do and that we're good at more than some of the tasks that are just mundane and take up time. So I expect a few of these things will be useful to each of you, but not every single one. So don't feel any pressure to try them all. If something looks interesting to you, write it down and give it a try when you have time. And if you need any help, I'll be here to help you set these things out, work out some bugs and that sort of thing. On my slide, there are several features in Gmail. There's a snooze feature. There's voice dictation. You can schedule emails to send at a later date. There are several add-ons that we'll look at today, and a button to add an email to your task list so that you can put it on a to-do list. We'll go over each one individually. And if any of those are super exciting to you, feel free to write which ones are most important to you in the chat, and I'll try to spend a little extra time on those. And when we get to the Google Calendar section, we'll be looking at the Zoom scheduler extension that allows you to do a one-click button to make your calendar meeting a Zoom meeting. How to use Google Find a Time, how to use notifications, and there's some features in the description of your calendar events where you can attach meeting notes, links, and other attachments to calendar invites so that all of your invitees have access to them. And lastly, I found out last week because I put an event on the wrong calendar, because I have my personal calendar and my academic technology calendar and my anti-racism events calendar. You can change the owner of a calendar event and thereby making a different calendar the owner and maintainer of that event. So also, if anything on that list is something you're excited about, feel free to throw it in the chat. The link to today's slides I'm posting in the chat right now if you want to open them on your own, because I'm going to be navigating around several different screens and coming back and forth to this. This is super informal. So if you have a question about something I'm looking at right in the moment, feel free to raise your hand or unmute your mic and just ask your question when the moment hits. You don't have to hold all your questions to the end. I appreciate you all being here, and if anybody needs to come and go as needed, please feel free. So shall we start with Gmail? I have several Gmail accounts. This is the one for academic technology. And I'm going to show you the snooze feature. When you are in an email, and any email will do, so let's say this Writing Center email, I'm gonna pop it open here. Gmail has a new snooze feature at the top, and it looks like a clock. This snooze feature allows you to hide this email from your inbox and allow it to pop up as a new email whenever you want. All right, so it has 4 convenient options, which are always here for you. Snooze it till later today, tomorrow, this weekend, or next week. 9 times out of 10, I pick a date and time. So for example, when I get a confirmation for a webinar that I'm going to in a couple of weeks, I don't want to leave that in my inbox and have it, flooding my attention all the time. So I can simply come to the calendar and snooze it until the day before the event and hit save. and that email will leave my inbox and it will reappear as a new email on November 30th, the day before the event that I was going to attend. I find that really useful when there is a reminder for a meeting I have to go to or something that has a due date that I'm just waiting for it to happen and I don't have to do any work on. Secondly, my new favorite feature, and I'm going to switch over to a different email account here. This is in Chrome this time. In my Chrome, I've installed a feature called Dictation for Gmail. And you'll see down here on my Compose a Message toolbar, there's an icon that's a microphone. So when I click the microphone, it starts typing exactly what I'm saying.
Oh, wow.
So for example, if your arm is tired at the end of the day from all the typing you've done, or you're across the room from your keyboard, or you've had surgery or physical therapy for repetitive motion injury, or if you just prefer to talk because it sounds different than the way you type, you can use the voice dictation icon to type messages. When you're done that section, you can just turn it off. You can put in any punctuation. You can also speak the punctuation, period, comma, several of those things work. I often go back and put that in by hand after the fact. And then if you want to start again as a second paragraph, or later you think of something you want to add on, all you have to do is click the microphone again and start again. Cindy, you have a question?
I do. Is this an add-on that we would need to install, or is this something that I just haven't noticed?
That is an add-on to Chrome. And on the second page of the slides, there's a link to where you can get it. But just so you know, it's called Dictation for Gmail. There's a Chrome extension. It's this easy to turn on. You'll see I already have it turned on. If it's off, this will say add to Chrome, and a pop-up box will say, do you really want to add this? And you say yes. And then as soon as you refresh your browser, it'll be available in future Chrome and Gmail options.
That is fantastic, Bonnie. I find it difficult sometimes to type on the small screen of my iPhone if I am remote, just because, you know, age and eyes. So this is a wonderful feature. Thank you.
For your iPhone, you already have it built in the Gmail app. If you use the Gmail app and not the native Blue M app, there is a microphone icon in the bottom right when you compose an email that's connected to the app already. You don't even have to install this. So, but if you want to do voice dictation on your computer, it probably would work on a Chromebook. You need to install Dictation for Gmail in Chrome, but on your phone, it should already be there if you have an iPhone. Now, for Firefox users, there is a, here we go, TTS Fox that is text to speech on Firefox. I haven't tested it thoroughly on Firefox, but if that's something, you know, if you're a Firefox user primarily and you want help, let me know and I'll give it some testing and we'll see if we can make it work for Firefox users. I do not know of an add-on for Safari, but I believe Apple has built-in speech recognition that may apply to Safari natively. Any questions on either of those? Snooze feature, voice dictation? All right. So This presentation was changing up to the last minute. In my last meeting, Katie Golis and Lindsay Chrisman told me about a new feature in Gmail that I didn't know about, but I do believe has been there for a little while. There's this little down arrow next to the send button, which allows you to open a panel to schedule when you want to send your message. You do have to have a recipient. But you can do a scheduled send, and it's just like the Snooze tool. It's got a couple of options for when you want to send it. But let's say you have an email you need to send out to your students over break. You can set it up now. You can pick the date you want to send it. And then you can schedule the send. You can also choose exactly what time it gets sent. So I love crossing things off my to-do list and not having to think about them anymore. So if I have an invitation to send out or a reminder that I want to send to people, I can send it when I'm thinking about it and when I have time, and not at that moment in date and time when I actually think it's important for people to receive it. Michelle, you have a question? You're muted.
No, I don't. Did I raise my hand or something?
Yes, your hand is up.
I don't know how I did that. I was typing in the chat box. Can you put it down or should I do that?
I can put it down for you.
Sorry, Bonnie, I didn't mean, I don't really know how I did it.
Not at all. In the reactions tool, there's a raise hand button and maybe you glossed over it with a mouse.
Yeah, that could be. Sorry.
No worries. Okay. So next thing I want to look at are the Google email add-ons for Gmail. This is a rather big topic, so I'm not going to go into depth except for to say, how many of you have this toolbar over here on the right on your Gmail? Because for those of you who don't, it's perfectly fine, but it allows you quick access to add-ons that you put into Gmail and to the ones that are built in. So in Chrome here, you can see on my BPowers account that I have these add-ons. And we'll just switch there. And here in my AT email, I also have this toolbar. This one just doesn't have a background on it. So by default, the add-ons that come in this toolbar are the calendar, and this calendar matches the account that you're logged into. Google Keep, which is a note-taking tool that allows you to keep a bunch of notes that you might want to access later. This circle with a check mark is Google Tasks. It allows you to have a to-do list on the side of your email. And then Contacts is there now. That's a new add. If you want to add or look for additional add-ons, this plus bar down here allows you to search. So for example, I use the tool Evernote, and my browser's taking just a little minute, but you can search for all sorts of add-ons to this Google bar. I use Microsoft Slack in a couple of groups that I'm in. I use Evernote. And these just allow me, I'm in my Gmail all day. It's sort of my main focal point when I am looking for a task. And this allows me simply to click on install a quick add-on. You usually have to give permission for it to have access to your Gmail, and make sure you pick the right account. And then say allow. Now, you may not need Evernote. Evernote is a very useful program for keeping notes. But now I have the little green elephant, which is Evernote. Kelly, you have a question?
Sorry, I always forget that I was on mute. I know this might be wishful thinking, but what are the chances of this carrying the microphone aspect of the emails carrying over to our Salesforce to do for like admissions, to be able to do emails to students and stuff? Is that possible?
There is a Salesforce add-on. I used to work in admissions briefly, just right when you were getting Salesforce. And it might actually be branded as Target X, but you can use a Google to Salesforce connector.
Yeah, I have that, but that I was just wondering if we could, when we're in Target X, if we can email the same way we do it with the response to the emails, because I can always forward the responses over if need be, but
Okay. Are you using Target X in Chrome?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
do you use Chrome as your main browser? Because that dictation for Gmail, or there might be another text-to-speech app. I know Google Voice has a playback feature and a dictation feature for Google apps. I'm going to guess that Salesforce might have a plugin for dictation that might plug into the Salesforce app. So I'm not particularly sure about that, but I'd be happy to, see if we can find any quick and easy add-ons that would make that possible.
Thank you.
These add-ons are really not very obvious at all. I never think to myself, oh, I should go look up and see if there's an add-on for this. Usually I'm searching Google and looking for some sort of functionality that I don't have. And that's usually why when I go look. But if you're using any other big applications in your work, there's a lot of CRM tools, there's Slack, and you can even just search Google for add-ons and find out which names they are. LaKoya?
Yes. Hey, Bonnie, forgive me if I mention this, and I'm asking now because I don't know if it's an add-on capability, but can you merge calendars from multiple accounts, or do you have to have something special in order to do that?
Okay, so you don't merge calendars, and I won't claim to be an expert on Google calendars. This does go to something I was looking at earlier. With all of these add-ons, these are bigger tools that you can really do more with, but in the add-on window, there's a limited way to use them. So for example, you can start a new calendar event in here. You can move a calendar event around, but if you need to get to all the features, they all have this little square box with the up arrow to open them in a new tab. And this is where I would go if I was looking at multiple calendars. So let me see. My AT calendars aren't very robust. So let me look at my Gmail calendars for B Powers instead. Okay. So it's not a bunch of merging. It's about making visible. So I subscribe to several calendars. I subscribe to my Bonnie Powers calendar, that one, my academic technology calendar. There's a conference on Quantum 10 and they have a calendar, and you can turn that on and make any events visible and invisible, but it doesn't actually merge multiple calendars into one.
I see. So it's just about granting accounts access to the other. Okay. Okay.
Right. So if you have 3 people in your department and you have a department calendar, you can each have 4 separate calendars and grant each other access to view each other's personal calendars, and you could all have access to even edit the shared departmental calendar. But that way you don't have to put like your out of office on your department calendar and your personal calendar. You can just put it on your personal calendar and other people can see it when they're viewing your calendar. Or you could put it on the departmental calendar and then it's not, and you could see it if you have that departmental calendar turned on.
So will those add-ins work on all of the calendars then, or do you have to add the calendar? You have to add the add-ins per account?
Okay. The add-ins only work when you are in, sorry, I'm just moving some tabs around here. When you are in the account that matches the calendar. So here I'm in my B Powers account, and that means this calendar is going to show B Powers, and anything B Powers has accepted invitations to.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then if I wanted to see the Antioch AT calendar, I would have to be logged in. And this is the Antioch AT calendar. Now, if you want to see certain events, what I do, if I put something on the Antioch AT calendar, I invite B Powers to it. And then I can accept that invitation, and it'll also be on the B Powers calendar so that I don't have to, there's no show and hide multiple calendars in the calendar add-on view.
But you just added, and this is my last question, I'm done. So the add-on that you just added, which was what? Evernote right there in green at the bottom. So that's only gonna show on this account. You would have to add it to the other email as well for it to work. Okay.
Yes, because it's a Google product. So it looks at what Google account you're logged into. at@antioch.edu is a Google account, and
Gotcha.
B Powers at Google. So this one will show my AT Evernote, and my B Powers add-on will show my B Powers Evernote.
Gotcha. Thank you, Bonnie.
Anytime. Michelle, now you have a question for real?
I really do this time. I did something a couple months ago by mistake that ended up being problematic for somebody who created a calendar event, and I almost did it yesterday and caught myself. So I got invited, to a group event, and it's an important meeting, and I didn't want to miss it. And so what I did when I accepted the invitation, and then I realized I need to remind myself about this an hour before, so I don't walk away from my computer or, get up, go to the bathroom and get some water or something, because I can't miss this. And I went in to set some reminders, and when I was doing it, I looked up and saw that the calendar that it was on was the person who invited me. And this is what happened a couple months ago when I set some reminders. It set it to the inviters calendar, and they were like, who put all these reminders here? And so they said, well, just save it to your calendar yourself. Well, then I end up with 3 events on my calendar based on me adding it, them inviting me. And then on our campus, we have somebody who creates sort of like community event calendar. So there's like 3 events on the calendar, which is, I don't want to also turn off that calendar because there's other things I need to see by it. Is there a way to, if I've accepted, an important event, when I go in to set the reminders, that I can set it and tell it to remind my email address rather than do you understand? Am I wording this?
Yes.
Okay.
So you probably have edit access to one of those other calendars, because only the owner of only the person whose calendar event it's on can control notifications. I, as the sender of an invite to thousands of you, would love to put on a notification that reminded everybody 24 hours in advance of the session I invited you to. But if I do that when I create the invitation, that notification only sticks, because I do those invitations on the AT calendar. It only sticks on the AT calendar. So what you have to do is open the event that you accepted on your personal calendar and change the notification. So for example, in this event, and I'm going to pop it open to the full view just so we can see, and we're going to look at the notification options.
Okay.
So here you go. Here's my whole calendar where both of them are showing. The green one is the one that I created that I accepted for myself. And this orange one is my AT calendar.
Okay.
So I have to open this one, and this is where I add notifications for myself.
Right.
And what gets confusing to me is the notification here, this is a pop-up window.
Mm-hmm.
Not an email, and it looks like this. So if you happen to be looking at your calendar, when that notification is set to go off, you get a pop-up window. It asks you if you want to allow it to open tabs, and you can say, okay. That's what a notification is. But if you use the email instead and you say, send me an email, say 15 minutes ahead, the email account of the owner of this calendar event, which you'll see is B Powers up here, not AT, that's who will get the invitation. So it may be that you were logged in as one of the editors of that other calendar
Huh.
and when you set the notification. So make sure you set the notification on your own calendar event.
And so you are confirming that in order to do that, I do have to create a second event by saving it to my calendar. I can't just have the main event showing on my calendar and in some way go in and set a reminder to my email address rather than the creators. I have to save a second event.
Well, it depends where you sent the event from. If you created the original event, someone else created the event and sent it to you. Is that
Yeah.
what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, you would have gotten an email that said, are you attending? Yes, no, or maybe.
Right.
If you say yes, it puts one on your calendar and it leaves the original on the sender's calendar.
Right.
And if you have access to view the sender's calendar, you will see two of them side by side when you are in this view,
Right.
where you're showing multiple calendars.
Right.
But if you just hid the AT calendar, you'd see you'd only have one event there.
Yeah.
And that's the event that you would put the reminder on. If
Right.
you sent the initial event, the notification will only
Yeah.
go to you.
Yeah. No, it's been when I've received one from, the provost or somebody, and I don't want to miss it. I want to be on time and all that stuff. But I end up with 2 and 3, and the third one's because this person makes, a community calendar, and it's just visually overwhelming, especially these days when we're already overwhelmed.
Yeah,
And-
that's why I use that visibility and I turn off the other calendars and only turn them on when I want to see them.
Yeah. And I sometimes I look at my calendar and I've turned it off. Well, and I guess your point is if I save it to my calendar and I turn them off, I'm going to see the ones I need to attend when I look at my calendar. I think I've been leaving what I was saying. I call them layers, the AT layer and the provost layer and the whatever layer. And I do pop them off sometimes when I just want to, what do I need to do today? Versus what have I been encouraged to attend? So this is helpful. I realize now, if I save it, I can turn off the layer because I'll save the ones I need to be at.
I don't think-
Right.
Got it.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Fabulous. I see there's a couple questions in the chat. And I just want to catch up to where we're at. I'm going to answer the questions in the chat, but I want to show you one more thing in Gmail. We've switched over to calendar a little bit. But this last one goes with this task list here. So this Google task list is a relatively simple to-do list. You put things on it. You can put them in whatever order you want. You can add details and a date and time when they're due to each event. But let's say, for example, I need to watch this podcast to get ready. Google, in your reading window, you now have a new button that's a circle with a check plus that adds that to your task window so that you don't have to come in here, manually add a task, type watch tools for learning, and then put in the date and put in the time. If this were a calendar event, the date would automatically be populated for you. If there were details, they would automatically be populated. But this quick button allows you to make a task out of an email. And your task list is sortable, where your email, it's always the newest things on top. And that makes it hard to use email as a to-do list. So I have used Google Keep as a task list. It's changed recently because you can have a major task with a bunch of sub items in Keep. So if you need projects with subtasks, try Google Keep. And if you need a simple task list where you can just turn things on, turn them off, archive them as done, saved. Try the task list tool that's built right in. And if you're overwhelmed again, you can hide this button just by clicking the X. And then there's a little arrow to hide and show the side panel down in the bottom right. It's very small. Can you all see where my pointer is way down here at the bottom? All right. So you can minimize it so it's just a bar, or you can maximize it so that you have whatever add-on you want activated, or you can go all the way down. If you X out the wide view, you can go all the way down so that you don't see it, especially if you have a narrow screen. Lindsay.
Yes, thank you. So I like that keep thing, but I'm looking in the Google Workspace Marketplace and it's not in there. You said it changed recently?
Google Keep actually is one of the ones that's on by default. So if you open your bar, it should be there already. You should start with calendar, keep, and tasks, and perhaps contacts. Contacts is new to this bar.
Mine says keep notes.
Yes.
So
keep,
tasks is just like tasks is a little, that little button.
yeah, tasks is the circle with the check mark. And keep used to be what was a little bit more of a more nuanced, a deeper, more complex version of task. They've started marketing it now as notes to really hold on to more note-taking things.
Okay, thank you very much.
This is what happens with Google. They change features. I have no clue what the difference between Google IM, Google Chat, and Google Hangouts are, because they've renamed the product in the bottom left corner down here several times. And now I have spaces too. So because they change names, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to look today at what I've seen that's new and figured out how to use in Gmail and Google Calendar. Michelle?
Thanks, Bonnie. So it looks like when you were clicking back and forth between keep and tasks, keep looks, yeah, so task, I see there's is that attachment, like where it says tools for learning, is that an attachment? So
that's an indicator that it's connected to an email that's in my email account.
and if you
So
click,
I can just click it and it opens that email
Okay.
with all the content in it. That way you don't have to type in the content or
yeah.
the whole thread that you need to get back to it.
but no, keep doesn't have that same, I mean, keep is kind of visually a little more pleasing to my brain.
Yeah.
And I see how you've made color boxes, which are probably, you know, groups or content area, which is visually helpful.
Yeah, Keep has a way to give a title to a project, and then there are multiple checkboxes underneath it.
Yeah,
Tasks doesn't have that extra layer of organization. So yes, you can just, but they're calling it take a note. So I could pick a new note for my video tutorials to create. And I could keep all of my ideas for new video tutorials here.
got it.
And I would only check off idea 1 or idea 2 as I finish them. And yes, you can use, when you're in this popped out view where everything is big and you can get access to all of the features of Keep, you can see a lot more functionality. You can change the colors.
Mhm.
This is in dark mode. You can also be in regular light mode.
So is there a way to pin the email in Keep like task offers?
Not that I know of,
Okay,
but let me just try
Let me
this
copy and
on a
paste.
whim. Let's see if I'm in here and I can drag this to Keep. It's not. No, it won't let me drop it on there.
okay.
But that would be a great feature to request in Google
Yeah.
Feedback.
I can see that being really valuable, especially for those of us, and it's probably most of us now these days, but who interact with multiple groups and multiple, you know, people that you're supporting that have different things, and you're trying to keep them together because you, like, you know, when CFT's under accreditation, I want to stay on top of the tasks for them, and being able to click on the email and then reread what they said had to be done by today and what has to be done by Friday. I can see the value of task, but I like the style of keep. It's the way my brain works with, you know, bullet things I can check off, and I see the whole group. So yeah, I'll look for a way to add that request.
Yeah, I love this.
Thanks for
So-
explaining it.
oh, no problem.
And I can
All right.
see both of them, but it could be, do you get confused between what you are loading into task and what you're loading into keep? Since you clearly use them both.
I get confused, and this is going to be a new topic, personal knowledge management, about where I keep all of my things. In my life, I use my email as a to-do list because I've created a sort of system that works for me, but it's hard to separate my personal to-dos and my work to-dos. I use the stars and labels for my priority system, and I can keep that straight. But sometimes it gets overwhelming. And so I'm considering using keep for projects, big things, and tasks for tasks. Because if I can advise you about anything about technology, it's like use the technology for what it was intended for. Don't try to make it something it's not, because it can be more frustrating.
Makes sense.
I mean, if you have extra time or you really need something to work, sure, give it a try. But technology usually does what it's intended for well, and you have to sort of make it up if it's not exactly what you want. So finding a better piece of technology that works for you is maybe better than hacking something together that wasn't really intended for that. Usually,
Yeah.
always there are exceptions to the rule.
One last question, and it was when you started, do you use Chrome for all of your email and you just go back and forth between the accounts, or do you use a different browser? I forgot, I didn't track what you said.
Yep. Not, I like Chrome for my bpowers at antioch.edu account. But often I have to switch to be my AT admin account or my anti-racism account, or check my personal email. And I tend to use Firefox for logging into one of my other work accounts, or I can add a new tab because my personal account is Gmail, so I can have my personal account open in Chrome too. But otherwise, anything I have to log in for another AU Direct account, I use a different browser so that I can stay logged in with that account and with my bpowers account at the same time. I can switch browsers to do what one user has to do and switch browsers rather than logging out and logging back in and logging out and logging back in. So it will depend on how many accounts you have, whether they're all Gmail. But for AU Direct accounts, I recommend separating one login, unless you only need the delegated access. So here's a caveat. If you are a delegated user, bpowers is a delegated user of the AT account, or I can log in for real in AU Direct because I have the username and password. If I go here to my delegated account, I do not have access to add-ons.
Right.
I actually have to be logged into AU Direct to get that add-on sidebar. It can't just be an email account that I'm delegated to. So in this case, AT, I would have to open that in Firefox, sign into AU Direct, and I can get the add-ons bar for AT. And in Chrome, I'll have the add-ons bar for bpowers. But in Chrome, I can't open my delegated email for those of you who are managing multiple email accounts to do that.
How many browsers do you tend to run in a day?
Only Firefox and Chrome.
Okay.
And I do shut down all my tabs every night because my computer used to get a little overwhelmed before I got some extra RAM.
Right. Well, and recently I think Chrome changed that they've made it easier to have two different accounts running in Chrome where you can click and go between them and have all your tools, where before I got my work bookmarks and everything all messed up with my personal because it didn't allow that firewall.
Yeah.
And I just recently saw that. So is that new? Are you aware?
It is, there's a Chrome login up here in the upper right corner.
Right.
And I don't want to go into too much detail, but I choose to leave my Chrome login off because it does get confused as to which account you're in when I'm in my YouTube channel or other Google accounts. So I don't allow my browser to Chrome to automatically log me in because it often overrides the login in my tab. And so that has been frustrating to me, but it does mean I have to store bookmarks on this computer and then I have to go and store bookmarks on my other computer because they don't cross over. So depending on what's better for you,
Got it.
you might experiment with that.
Thanks for responding to that question.
No problem. All right, so somebody was excited about Zoom Scheduler and someone was excited about changing the event owner option. So I'm going to touch on those two things. And then Jen, I want to come back to your question about mail merge or assigning group tasks through Gmail, because those are different questions. All right, so Zoom Scheduler. In a calendar, I am in my BPowers account. When I open a new event, you'll see that I have this button in the bottom corner called Make It a Zoom Meeting. And even when I open up into the full version, I have a button called Make It a Zoom Meeting. When I click that event, it makes a new Zoom meeting in this account's Zoom account, in my BPowers Zoom account. And it puts it in that meeting. One click. I don't have to go to Zoom, make a meeting, copy the link, put it in here. This is an add-on for Firefox and Chrome. And I am in Chrome here, I think. So all you have to type in is Zoom Scheduler, and I have both links in the slide presentation. So you don't even have to type it in, but if you're doing it now. Zoom Scheduler for Chrome. Add to Chrome, remove from Chrome. After you refresh your window, you will then have that Make It a Zoom Meeting button in your calendar. Is anybody using that already? Feel free to.
I am.
How do you find it, Debbie?
It's great. All I have to do is get the people in there, pick a time and click the button and we're good to go.
Yeah, I really like it for one-off meetings. For my AT meetings like this one where I have recurring events, I usually copy and paste them in there. But for a one-off meeting, it just saves so many clicks. And Michelle, are you saying yes, you use it, or you have a question?
No, I'm just downloading it right as we speak.
Okay, your hand is up, so.
Oh, damn. Sorry, people. Did
No
you
worries.
put it down?
I did just put it down.
God.
Yeah, and just to demonstrate, it's also available. Let me find my Firefox. Same thing in Firefox. You can go to add-ons at Mozilla and you can add it to Firefox. You'll see I already have it in Firefox. And what's great about the Chrome extensions is it adds it to every account. So if I'm in Firefox and I have my AT account open, it's got add a Zoom meeting. But if I log into BPowers, it's got Zoom, make it a Zoom meeting. If I log into my personal account, it's got Zoom meeting. So if you install Zoom Scheduler in the browser, either Chrome, Firefox, both, whatever email account and Zoom account you open in that browser, if it has a Zoom account, it will make a Zoom meeting out of it.
Hey, Bonnie, it's Tom Julius here.
Go ahead, Tom.
That's great. I also just downloaded it and added it on. Thank you so much for showing that. And of course, the people that you're inviting to that meeting have to use their Google Calendar.
Yes and no. And here's what I love about Google Calendar.
Yeah.
Google Calendar sends its invitations to people's email. So if they click yes, no, or maybe, it will add on to their it'll put it in their Google Calendar, whether they use it or not. But if they just save the email, all that information is still in that email, and all they have to do is click it when it's time for the meeting.
Thanks. Got it. Yep.
So yes, it's not a perfect solution, but it does mean that no one's excluded as long as you have their email address invited. All right, and let's look at changing the ownership. So last week I logged into AU Direct as my anti-racism events coordinator position, but when I clicked the calendar, it opened the AT calendar because that's what I had been logged in last. And I accidentally scheduled a meeting on the AT calendar that was really for the anti-racism events task force. And so what happened was I wanted to move it, but I didn't want to, move people's cheese because I had already invited people. But if you need to change an event, if you put it under your personal calendar, Michelle, and you wanted to instead have invited it from your departmental calendar, you can go up here to more actions after the event has been saved, and you can change the owner. And you can choose who you want to send it to you. It sends them an email and they have to accept the invitation to become the owner. But once they do, it makes them the primary. It puts it on that calendar as the owner. And you could still invite yourself so that you get a copy as someone who's coming, but you would no longer be the owner of that event. So if you need to create meetings on behalf of someone else, you can put it on someone else's calendar. Dana, did you have a question? So was there someone who said that they wanted to see that? I hope that
was
answers.
me.
Oh,
Thank you,
Lisa, great.
Lisa. Hey, yeah, no, that's really useful.
Yeah, I know you can do it with Google Docs and I know you can do it with Google Sheets, but I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? I don't want to delete it and recreate it. So learning trial by fire, that's how I learn all these things. Or also known as trial by failure or failing forward. That's sort of how
I like
figure
the
out.
positivity of failing forward.
Yeah, me too. All right, I'm just checking the new messages in the chat. Okay. Let me see if I have covered everything that was on. Is there anybody particularly interested in Google Find a Time?
I don't know about Find a Time, but I'm interested in where is it? Oh, maybe I thought it was something else. It's like where you can designate certain blocks of time as meeting times, and then people can like click a link and go to those and schedule it for you.
Okay.
Is that the same?
It is not,
Okay.
but I use a tool called Calendly for offering meeting times. And I can talk about that at the end if you want. I just put the word Calendly in the chat and it's a free tool for one meeting type.
Okay, I think the one I was thinking of is appointment slots. It's like
Yes.
if you, yeah.
That's what Calendly offers. It allows you select times when your calendar is open and it lets people book a 30-minute meeting or 15-minute meeting or whatever meeting time you set on your calendar during only the times that you've allowed and when you don't already have a meeting in that space.
Okay, cool.
So it
Thank
allows you
you.
not to get double booked.
Yeah.
So for those who might not know, Google Find a Time is a little bit similar to Doodle. And I'm going to do it in a new event just because it's easier when you start from scratch. So when you start a new event, if you add a couple of guests, and I hope Michelle won't mind if I fake invite her to a meeting and maybe Katie Golis. If I need to find a time when 3 of us are available and all 3 of us are using our Google calendars, this is the caveat with Find a Time that Tom Julius brought up. When you add guests, if you go into this Find a Time button, which is to the left, the right of event details, you will see whatever a person has in their Google Calendar. so that you can see if all three of you are available. So in this case, I see Michelle's work hours haven't started yet at that time, but I can just drag this bar down to a time when if I were free and Katie was free and Michelle was free, then I can flip back over to the event details and know that I have a time that theoretically works for people. And when I send this invitation, maybe Michelle will say, no, oh, I forgot to put something in my calendar at that time. Can we move it? But it's a quick way. I don't recommend it for a huge meeting because it's very hard to find a time that works. But I use it for exploration to look at people's calendars when I have a meeting of, let's say, 8 or 10 people to say, it looks like the only time in the next week is this and this. Would that be a good time? Or if I use it for 2 or 3 people, Calendly doesn't work great for 2 or 3 or for 3 or 4 or 5 people. It works better for a one-on-one, but find a time can be really helpful. And when I do meetings, there are several features that I use regularly in the description box down here. A new one is called Create Meeting Notes. If you click this Create Meeting Notes when you create an event, it creates a Google Doc that is accessible by everybody on the invitation list, and it links it to your meeting description. So in AT, we have a weekly Monday meeting, and we have an agenda and meeting notes that's just ongoing. We use the same document all the time. It's a repeating meeting. And so in the calendar, because I've linked it to the description, it's available every week for us to go in. I don't have to go search my Google Docs to find our agenda and meeting notes to see what's on the agenda. When I open the Zoom link from my calendar, I can just click the rolling agenda or the rolling meeting notes and open them right there. It's also true so that you could add links. So for example, if I wanted everybody to install Zoom scheduler before our meeting, I can make it very easy for them by highlighting this, grabbing the link from Firefox or Chrome, whatever you need. Just find the right calendar event, using the link button and pasting in the link address. Also, if you need people to read an article, you can simply attach an article to a calendar event the same way you can attach something to an email. So if people throw away, you can either look in recent things you've had open, you can look in My Drive for your Google Drive, or if you have it on your desktop, you can select from your device and you can pick, whatever you wanted them to read. So for me, if I have to lead a meeting, and even especially as a participant of a meeting, I find it really hard to keep track of my AT Tech meeting notes and my AT Monday meeting notes and the transition team project management group notes. But I know that if I've linked them to the calendar event, repeating or non-repeating, just a regular calendar event, that they'll always be there for me to go in and click, and I'll always know where they are. And I don't have to go through the process of searching Google Drive, searching my desktop, or trying to find that link that somebody sent me. So these can be really useful features when you're setting up a new event. So that's everything I had on my agenda. So I want to open it up to any questions you might have about those things or other related ideas that you're looking for to make your life a little easier to maintain the millions of pieces of data and events you need to attend and people you need to take care of. Lindsay, did you want to take a look at Calendly?
Yeah, I think so. I'm kind of playing around with just the native Google one, the appointment slots thing here, but I'm curious about Calendly. Thank you.
Okay. So let me jump over to my Calendly account, and then I will drag it over here so you all can see it. So one thing I love about Calendly is that I usually log in with my Gmail account so that it's connected to my Antioch calendar. With Calendly, you want to have the account set up with the same email address that you use your calendar on. So I'm logging in with Google. Many of you have seen my email, and when I email people, I ask them if they want to have a meeting with me. And instead of, I used to go back and forth via email. I'm on Eastern time. What time are you on? What days and times are good for you? Did you really mean 8 a.m. Pacific time? That's kind of early, you know, that sort of thing. And it took 3 or 4 or 5 emails back and forth for just a one-on-one. And it's even more for multiple people. So what I do, sorry, that didn't work. When I compose an email is just, I have a link to my Calendly that just says, here's the link to set up a 30-minute meeting on my calendar. Ooh. My Zoom feature is doing its own thing. And when a person clicks it, they can see my calendar and when I have availability. So I've set it up so every meeting is 30 minutes and that there's a 15-minute buffer on either the beginning or the end of the meeting, so I don't run into a meeting right before or right after. And that means if anybody wanted to meet with me on Monday, I have these slots available. Now, I'm on Eastern time and Michelle's on Pacific. If she had opened this calendar, she would see 7 a.m. Pacific. So it automatically converts the time so you don't have time issues across time zones. If I go into my calendar right now and I add a meeting that covers 11:45, no one will see this Calendly block. So 11:45 will no longer be available. So it looks at your Google Calendar to see what the openings are. And in the settings, I've set up the times to say, I will accept meetings between 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. You could say 12 to 2 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can set up whatever time bands you want to allow people to access. And I'll show you how to do it in here. So the free account for Calendly allows you one meeting type. But if you do a paid account, I could have a 15-minute meeting, an hour-long meeting. I could have one meeting that's only during these days and one meeting that's only during these days. But if you go into your event, you have many, many settings that for setting up this appointment slot. So when can people book? No more than 30 calendar days in advance. You could actually set a date range. So it's saying only for the month of November. How long will the meeting be? 30 minutes. I'm using an existing schedule, which I created called working hours. Or I can customize, I can set custom hours, and I can say not on Tuesdays and not on Wednesdays, and Thursdays I can't meet until 12 and only until 3:30. So you have total control over what windows are available to people. And if you have blocked out a meeting during that window, Calendly won't let someone double book you.
Bonnie, thank you so much for going over that. I'm like salivating because
Now,
it sounds
I will
awesome.
say the settings are so robust that they sometimes get confusing. So if you need help with some of those settings, just let me know, because there's a lot there.
Thank you so much.
Bonnie, I have a follow-up question on that. So sometimes I'll block off time on my calendar to remind myself to do something, but I leave it as free time. So if someone needs to book a meeting with me, they're not hindered. Would this take into consideration the busy versus that feature that Google has?
Yes, it absolutely does. because I booked a holiday on my calendar and someone booked a meeting during it because I marked on my calendar as free. So just to be clear about what Debbie's asking, when you create an event, let's just say this was a work on project A. And this was to tell me I wanted to set aside a 2-hour window where I was going to work on something. But I also wanted it to be available. There's a busy or free icon in the calendar event. If I set this to free, then Calendly and the appointment scheduler that's built into Google will allow someone to book during that time. If you set it to busy, which is the default setting for all meetings, then it will not allow it to overbook. So yes, you can do that if you want to have a reminder on your calendar, but actually still make it a free time.
And if I can I ask one more question? So you mentioned the free version, you get one type of meeting, but the paid account, you can have more. Do we have to pay for that ourselves, or is that something I could contact Harold and get a paid account on that?
No, Calendly is not an institutional tool.
Okay.
So this is why I use the free version. I haven't figured out a reason. The only reason you would need a free tool is if you needed a separate link to it. So if you wanted these times to be open for this group of people and they get that link, and these times were available to different people and they would need a separate link, or if you needed a meeting that had a variable time, like 30 minutes. But what I do is I make all my meetings 30 minutes. If someone only wants 15 minutes, that's fine. We've got a 15-minute buffer. But in my setup of Calendly, I put in the notes, if you need more than 30 minutes, let me know. And then I go into my calendar and I book another extension just right after their meeting. So in my calendar, let's see what my calendar says today. I've got meetings. So I usually, here we go. So I've got a meeting for Rise Up on this day, and I just booked a 30-minute extension after it, just manually dropped that in so that I could extend someone's 30-minute meeting to an hour long. And that's how I get around having to pay for an account. And yes, calendly.com is where we go to create the free account. Now, I think I had my first 30 days, it let me create as many meeting types as I wanted. So I got to practice and figure out what the most useful one was. And then when my trial ran out and I didn't want to pay personally, I just went down to one useful meeting to see if I could get away with the free version before I decided to pay for something I might not use very much. So I realize we're over time, and I'm so thankful that so many of you stayed. But please, if you feel like you need to go, it's quite all right. But if anybody wants to stay on and ask some more questions, I am available.
Bonnie, with your